G'day everybody, it's Ash here, and today I want to share with you a little bit about my journey with psychedelic mushrooms and how that particular medicine has helped me with my life and so many other things. And yeah, I just want to give you a little bit of insight into this medicine that I've been working with for a number of years now. Maybe educate you a little bit about what psychedelic mushrooms are, and maybe just intrigue your curiosity to, be more open to these particular medicines, which, from my experience, are extremely helpful for so many people. They may not be suitable for everybody, and they should be treated with a high level of respect, caution, and they must be revered and honoured. They're not just medicine or like a pharmaceutical type medicine that you can buy from a shop and take the certain dosage that it says on the packet. They're very different to pharmaceutical medications as such. And so hopefully I can give you a bit of insight, and hopefully you enjoy hearing some of my experiences. So the mushroom that I'm mainly talking about is a mushroom called the psilocybin mushroom. And there's lots of different species of the psilocybin mushroom, but the one I've been working with predominantly is a species called Psilocybin subaeruginosa. It often gets referred to as subs, or if you're out looking for them, you might be looking for subs. They grow, they're a wood-loving species, so you'll often find them growing in wood chips that are decomposing. They're a golden top mushroom. Golden top is another name that they go by, or golden teacher, because they are very much I was going to say teacher plant, but they're not a plant, they're a mushroom. So, but it's a teacher medicine, just like other similar plant medicines that are around as well that you might have heard of. So, yeah, they've got a white stem, and they do bruise blue if you pick them. If you touch them or handle them, then either the stem or the cap, which is gold in colour, will bruise blue. There are lookalikes that are poisonous and can have quite negative outcomes for people who eat those mushrooms. So if you aren't sure about which mushrooms you're picking in the wild, then be very careful, and certainly I don't recommend eating any mushrooms that you pick in the wild unless you are completely sure what they are. There's some lookalike mushrooms such as the funeral bell, which looks quite similar, but to the trained eye it is very, very easy to pick these species apart, and they grow in the same areas and they're the exact same condition. So it's quite easy to mistake the wrong mushroom, and that particular mushroom can cause problems for the organs of the body. I think it's the liver or kidney, that one that can have quite a negative effect on, and you will probably be hospitalised. You probably won't die. It's probably not likely to be fatal if you get it treated, but you'd be pretty uncomfortable and in a lot of pain. So you definitely want to be really careful picking wild mushrooms. So the Psilocybin subaeruginosa mushroom that I've been working with quite a lot over a number of years now is a very special mushroom to me. I connect a lot with this mushroom. This mushroom kind of found me. I wasn't necessarily searching for this mushroom. It just popped into my universe, my world, and the opportunity came to ingest this mushroom and work with this medicine that is inside this mushroom. being the psilocybin itself. That particular compound is the psychoactive compound in the mushroom. So yeah, I've been working with the mushroom, starting off taking smaller doses, which is always advised to start with smaller doses, gradually build up. I started having someone hold the space for me, just to make sure that I was okay in case anything happened. These journeys that we go on using these mushrooms can be quite deep and profound, but they can sometimes be very confronting. So I found initially having a space holder, someone who was experienced with mushrooms, very helpful, and I would highly recommend that to anyone who's looking to start out, is to find someone who has knowledge and experience working with these mushrooms and can actively hold a safe space for you to try that as well, if that's something you're interested in. I want to talk about my last journey with these mushrooms, because I recently took quite a large dose of mushrooms and had a really profound spiritual experience, which the stronger the dose you take, the more profound, the more of a spiritual experience you're going to have. But it's not something you can just do straight away. It is advised that you want to build up to it slowly. So I had a period of about 3 weeks, going back a few months ago now, where it just felt like the universe was stirring some things up emotionally in my body. And I'm not exactly sure what the cause was. Obviously there is astrological cycles with the planets and the moon and things like that change our physiology and can bring things up emotionally for us at certain times, whether that be a full moon, a new moon, or whatever's happening, or the different moons. So there was some stuff that had been coming up for me for about 3 weeks, and it was a bit challenging. Like I wasn't feeling depressed within myself, but there was emotions of like depression. I could feel that life felt a bit miserable. Life felt a bit dull, a bit boring. I was having regular thoughts like, what's the meaning of all of this? Life didn't seem to have too much meaning. There wasn't any magic or spark to life. Everything was very dull and bland and boring, and I was just having one of those periods where nothing was really exciting for me. I seemed to be stuck in the mundane of just doing what I did day to day, and it was a bit challenging because it made me, there was that emotion of feeling depressed. I think I did pretty well to stay separated from that. I didn't let it consume me, like sometimes I have done in the past before I've done a lot of this work. Before I'd done a lot of this healing work, I didn't have the mental strength to detach from some of these emotions. So in the past, that probably, all that stuff coming up would have made me feel quite depressed. But because I've done a lot of work, I didn't feel depressed, but I was aware that life was feeling very dull, and so it was a slightly challenging few weeks where I don't think anyone enjoys going through a period like that, where things feel a bit boring and not much is happening, and there's a lack of excitement about what you're doing, and you're sort of asking deep questions. So I really sat with that for that 3 week period that those emotions were coming up. And eventually, towards the end of that 3 weeks, I developed a really strong awareness of what was coming up. and it felt like the universe was raising something up to the surface to shine light on something that that I needed to move past in order to continue growing as a human being. And what that was for me was a realization that for most of my adult life, I had always been quite OCD in nature, and always very focused on little details and being really super hyper organized in my life, in my house, at work. And I had this realization that I had always done that, but I had always put those small little details and that feeling of being organized before my relationships with other people, family, friends, and so on. So I'd lived a long time as an adult not prioritizing my relationships with people who mean the most to me, or people who I want to spend time with and engage with and connect with on a regular basis. Instead of prioritizing that, I could see very clearly that I had been prioritizing all of those small little details, making sure the washing's done at home, making sure the dishes are done, making sure the house is tidy, making sure everything's put away in its little place. If I was at work, making sure everything was nice and clean and tidy and put away and everything had its spot and there was a certain organization. And that was okay, because that's not a bad trait to have, to be like that, to be organized, to be clean and tidy and be respectful of other people. But what I realized was that I was putting that before my relationships, and that was a problem, because that's not how I wanted to live. I want to live this life where I connect with people all the time on a daily basis. You know, I might have a day where I don't socialize or go and see people, and that might be once a month or every fortnight or something like that. It's okay to have a day like that, but I want to have a life that's full of beautiful connections with beautiful people. And for me, that's the essence of life, and that's a really important thing that I want to prioritize. And unfortunately, looking back, I really haven't done that, and it stopped me from living a really full life. So that was the beginning of the awareness around my OCD and how much it had actually held me back. And I became aware, which I've known for a while, that that OCD was definitely passed down, you know, from my parents and from also their parents. And so it was intergenerational, this OCD and this sort of focusing on the smaller things in life that don't matter as much, and not prioritizing the things that do matter, which is connecting with other people. So that was a powerful realization. And at the end of that 3 weeks, I was pretty fed up, and I was ready to get rid of that OCD and just fuck it off forever. And so, you know, I'd been working with the mushrooms, and I hatched a plan, and organically it just felt really right in the moment that my next opportunity, I would plan a mushroom ceremony where I would be at home for the entire day and take the biggest dose of mushrooms that I had ever taken, and set the intention to heal the OCD that I'd been living with for my entire adult life. So I did that. I scheduled the day, a Tuesday. I woke up in the morning, got up early, got the kids ready for school. My wife went off to work, and it was about 8:30 in the morning, and I brewed some cacao, because I always drink and ingest the mushrooms with a bit of cacao. I find that those two medicines work very well together, and it's just so beautiful. The way they dance together through your journey is quite profound. So brewed up some cacao, some sacred cacao, tipped in the mushrooms, quite a lot of mushrooms, and, you know, mixed that all up together. also added some other stuff in there, some other medicinal mushrooms like lion's mane, some cordyceps, and some other stuff. And I drank the beverage. I sat in my office where I am now. I drank the beverage, got it down pretty quickly, and just honoured the medicine. And then I began to sit with the medicine, and I wrote out my intentions to heal my OCD. My second intention was just to surrender, which is always one of my intentions when journeying, to surrender into the medicine. And then the medicine started to take hold of my body, and I could start to feel the effects. So I had been outside. I like to go out and put my bare feet on the grass, on the earth, connect with Mother Earth. So I'd been outside, but it came on pretty quickly, and I made my way to my bedroom, where I put the blinds down, created a nice dark space, really quite dark, and laid in bed and allowed the journey to begin. And that's I spent the next 3 to 4 hours in the bedroom journeying with this beautiful medicine. So initially I began to see a lot of patterns, really beautiful, amazing patterns that were moving. Sometimes they were moving and sometimes they weren't, and with eyes open and eyes closed, there was the same patterns, and just absolutely beautiful, beautiful patterns. Within those patterns, I could begin, after a little while, I could begin to see an eye, just a single eye. And it felt like it was the eye of God. At some point early on in that ceremony, I felt like God was with me. And I'm not a religious person. I don't follow any particular religion. So when I say God, you can exchange that with the divine, as they might talk about in yoga. I was calling him the creator spirit in this particular journey. Whoever it is that created all of life itself, whatever energy that is, that's what I'm referring to when I use the word God, just so you know. So it became obvious that God was with me, the creator spirit was with me, and then the journey started to become uncomfortable. I felt nausea coming on pretty strong, and there was some sounds that I was hearing, sort of like a sound like a vroom, vroom, vroom. And it was kind of like an extraction. That's what it felt like. I remember feeling like something was being extracted from my body, kind of like a tooth being pulled out, but not that sort of pain that you might associate with a tooth being pulled out. There was no sharp pain or anything like that, but it was a feeling of extraction, something being pulled quite aggressively out of my body. And I had the thought initially that, oh no, I've taken too much here. This is not good. I'm having a bad trip. And I'm not a fan of that language, by the way, bad trip. I think the medicine always gives us what we need. But it was a concerning moment where I thought maybe I have taken too much and maybe I'm not in a good situation here. But I quickly realized and remembered my intention, and I came back to that. And I had an aha moment where I felt, the medicine is pulling this OCD out of my body and getting rid of it forever. And that is exactly what it felt like in that moment. And this felt like it went on for about an hour. I don't think it probably would have been that long. It might have been 20 minutes to half an hour, but it felt like about an hour in the journey. Obviously time well, you may not be aware, but time becomes non-existent when you're journeying. Time is a really foreign concept, and time just gets shattered into a million pieces when you're journeying. You're just you're in a completely different realm that is timeless. So that's just to give you an idea of how long it felt. But once I remembered my intention, I was like, I can surrender into this now. This is the OCD exiting my body. And this is going to allow me to move forward positively and grow to my full potential as a human. So that was a really exciting realization, and it was just really beautiful. And so from then I just surrendered. And look, some nausea did come and go, but it often does with the mushrooms, and that's sort of part of the journey. It's not uncomfortable. It's you know, it just comes and goes in waves, and I almost find it enjoyable in the journey. Like you'll go off on tangents, but then you'll come back to your physical body. The nausea, a little bit of nausea, will bring you back to your physical body, and you'll just slow down, breathe, and within a couple of moments, it passes again. So it was a bit uncomfortable for a while, that extraction, and I felt like my ego showed up at that point as well, and he was fighting. He didn't want to let this OCD go, because for the ego, the OCD was a part of who I was for such a long period of time. It was a part of me. It was part of my identity. And so the ego showed up briefly, and he didn't stand a chance really with the strength of the medicine that I'd taken. So thankfully, it was nice for him to show up, and it was a nice interaction with my ego. But he quickly disappeared, and he realized pretty quickly that he wasn't going to be able to hold on to this one anymore, that it was time to let go, which was really beautiful. So, and I always honor my ego when it shows up. I don't judge my ego as good or bad. It just is. And it's always nice to just have awareness of ego, because we all do have ego, and we have to dance with the ego if we want to live a full life. And awareness is the beginning of that, from my experience. So the OCD was extracted from my body, and it was uncomfortable for a while, but it eventually that wore off, and it felt like, it was almost like giving birth to a child. Like it felt like these vibrations were vroom, vroom, like bearing down, and something was exiting my body. So the two analogies that I use, a tooth being pulled or giving birth to a child, that's what it felt like, just getting something out of you in a similar sort of process like that. Giving birth, obviously, is a very, just an insane experience that women go through, and they grow a child in the womb, and then it comes out. That's a beautiful experience, and that's pretty much what it felt like for me. Maybe I gave birth to my OCD baby, my little OCD baby, and I sent him back out into the universe where he belongs to do his thing. But anyway, that was a beautiful healing experience. From that point on in the journey, I started to have a really pleasant journey. I had a visualization that came to me. It was an old man with a long white beard, sitting in a rocking chair in a small room. And he was a beautiful old man with a white beard, and it was pretty clear from early on that this was God, this was the creator spirit, and this was the person who created all things. And next to this person was a bookshelf in this room. So it was quite a magical bookshelf, a really beautiful bookshelf. And he told me that he created this bookshelf out of nothing. no matter, nothing, just magic, created this bookshelf. And it was this beautiful bookshelf that was full of magical books. And I could see on the bookshelf that one of the books was my book. It was the story of Ash. And so at some point I merged with this person in the rocking chair, this godlike figure. I merged with him. At some point I realized, and initially I was observing him, but then I realized that I also was him. I was this person in the rocking chair. I was still Ash. I still had my physical, I was still this physical body. I was still Ash, but I was also God. I was also the creative spirit. There was a merging, a feeling of union, a feeling of being connected to all things. And that was very beautiful. And I remember being in the rocking chair, looking through this book, the story of Ash, my life story. And I had a realization that if I'm the creative spirit, if there's no separation there, if I'm him and if he is me, and I created this bookshelf, I created all the books, then I get to create my own story. And I can make the story whatever I want to make it. And with my life, I can do whatever I want to do in my life. I have that power within me. And that was the profound realization from that visualization, that hallucination that I experienced, was that I am the creative spirit. There's no separation between me and the person who created all of this. I am him, he is me. And it was just a beautiful, profound realization, really empowering. You know, I get to write my own story. What does that mean? If I truly believe that that's the case, like, what does that mean for my life and for what I do with my life? Like, you know, I felt this limitless potential inside of me that I could do anything that I wanted to do. And it was hugely empowering and a beautiful moment. So that was my journey. Look, my journey went on for quite a while, and you know, I had made plans to pick up my son. I was supposed to pick up my son at 3:00 after school, and I quickly realised probably about 1:00-ish. I'd come out of the bedroom at that point, so I'd spent 3 or 4 hours in the dark bedroom. You know, I had become aware of the time, and I had a realisation that I probably wasn't going to be in a state to drive at that point. Normally on lower doses of mushrooms, they have worn off well and truly by that 3:00 in the afternoon. But in this case, being such a strong dose, I was still tripping quite a lot. So I had some awareness that I needed to send my wife a message and explain to her that you know, she was going to just have to leave work a little bit early to come and get my son from school, get our son from school. And she was kind of aware that might have been the case in the morning, because I had worded her up and told her that I was taking quite a big dose, and to just, you know, maybe be prepared to get a phone call. So that was fine. So I had left the bedroom, and this might have been about 12:00. So journeyed for about 3 or 4 hours in the bedroom, had those conversations with God, released that OCD from my body. And I'd come out of my bedroom, out into the living area and the kitchen dining area, and just the most beautiful natural light, just the sun coming through the windows, is just one of the most beautiful things that you get to witness when you come out of your journey and you've done that work in the, I call it shadow work, like working in the dark and just being with yourself and going deeply in to do that deep healing that we must do if we want to live a full life. And then coming out back into the world, because that's when you're coming back into starting the integration process. You've done the work, and now you've got to transition back to the real world to start integrating what you learned in the bedroom in the dark. And so I'd come out, and it probably took me about an hour to get from the bedroom to the kitchen, because I had stopped and was on the floor for a little while and just was looking at the ceiling and different things and still pondering, still having lots of ponderings. And so it took me about an hour to get to my phone in the kitchen to be able to just send my wife a message and say, I need you to pick up our son from school. And then I continued tripping and just being in that altered state for the next few hours as the medicine slowly started to wear off, and I can't recall exactly what I did, but look, often I'll go into the garden. I might go into different rooms, like the kids' playroom, and just there's special energy from where the kids play, and everything is like a little cartoon world, and you're in a very, very, very altered state of consciousness, and you're seeing the world very differently. Everything is magic. When you go out into the garden, the vibrancy of the plants is particularly special, and you just look at things from a completely different perspective, and that's the beauty of this medicine. You gain this whole new perspective on life, and it challenges the norms that you have been taught your whole life, and it challenges you to think outside the box, to think differently, to say, yeah, I can do anything, or nothing is impossible, and you can explore your time here on this earth in as many different ways as you possibly can. There is no limits. So yeah, but then eventually my wife and son came home, and so I'd had plenty of time to journey, and they came back home, and we all had a good laugh about what happened, and I filled my wife in on a bit of the journey, and she helped me process some things, and it's always good to bounce things off another person who does understand these types of things, and I think we went out for dinner that night, and just spent a nice night as a family, and then the integration process begins from there. So lots of journaling for me, just writing stuff down, writing notes. I always make sure that there's pen and paper nearby when I'm journeying, so I can write stuff down when I'm in an altered state, and because you do forget stuff, and so making lots of notes that you can refer back to, and as you integrate that, and since that journey, then what I've felt is just I don't think I have ever felt as strong or as energized as I have in my life since that journey. Just the extraction of that OCD, which didn't seem like it was that big of a deal. It didn't feel like it was holding me back that much. But in hindsight, it was in a huge way. And I think that's the case for most people, that we have these things, these old belief systems, these stories in our head that we don't think affect us too much on a daily basis, but actually they do subconsciously. And if we want to live a full life, then it's wise, we need to do the work to go in and heal what needs to be healed, so we can move forward positively. Otherwise, we'll let those things affect us for the rest of our lives, and we'll never access our full potential. So that's why this healing work is so important to me, because I want to live my fullest life. So very interesting journey. After we got home from dinner, I had gone back out into the back garden and was just taking a wee on my lemon tree, and out of nowhere, I glanced at the sky, and a shooting star, the biggest shooting star that I've ever seen across the sky, just woof. And it felt like a nod from the universe to say that you really connected today, and it was just a little nod from the universe. It was bloody beautiful. It was so special. I have never seen a shooting star in Ballarat. You know, my time living in Melbourne, I never saw a shooting star. I had seen one about 5 years ago when I did ayahuasca up in Byron. We were staying at a house in the Byron hinterland, and it was the night of the ceremony for ayahuasca. We watched the sun go down, and I had seen a shooting star. That's the only shooting star I've ever seen. So it's funny that my two pretty big psychedelic experiences have both have been the only times that I've witnessed shooting stars. There's two in my life. I'm 33 years old. I've only seen two shooting stars, and both have been, one was before I did the ayahuasca, so that was before we drank that medicine, and then this one after the mushrooms later in the afternoon, or later in the evening. It was probably about 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and just beautiful. So that was a sign to me, a really beautiful sign that I had connected to Source. I had connected to the universe quite deeply, and yeah, that was just an affirmation of that for me, which was really beautiful. So I hope you enjoyed that sharing of that particular journey. It was a very deep one for me, and just since that journey, I have had so much mental clarity, focus. My sleep has been just as deep as it ever has been. I'm normally a pretty deep sleeper, but I've been dreaming a lot, really having deep rest at night, waking up earlier. I've been waking up several hours earlier, sometimes 5 a.m., 6 a.m. One morning I got up at like 3 a.m. and I went to the gym, and I just have had all this energy, and it's been consistent energy that stays with me throughout the whole day, and until I'm ready to wind down and go to sleep, and then I quickly fall asleep and I'm off into the dreaming. So it has done me so much good. I was in that challenging phase for a few weeks there where I was a bit lethargic, struggling with energy, struggling with mental focus, feeling a bit scattered, not feeling grounded. I was almost feeling a bit sick at times, a bit unwell. And so since this journey, my vitality is just through the roof. I've got so much energy, I've got so much motivation, and everything in life is magic again. The magic of life, I'm connected to at all times. I'm just playing with my kids and just enjoying watching them play and playing with them. I've been in the garden a lot. I'm just enjoying planting, where, you know, before the journey, I didn't want to be out in the garden. I didn't want to go out there. I was just like, whatever, like, you know, it's too hard. Like, I didn't have the energy or focus to do it. But now it's like I just want to be out there gardening, planting things, connecting with the plants, growing food for my family, teaching my kids how to grow food, you know, growing food for us to use in dinner, and, you know, so we're eating well and getting good nutrition. So it's just like I've got 1,000 times more energy than I had going into that ceremony. And it just highlights for me the importance of doing the healing work. Like, you can put it off and put it off and put it off, and we do, and I have certainly for a long time with a lot of stuff, but since I've discovered these medicines, you know, 5, 6+ years ago, and this sort of work, like, you know, I've been doing yoga for 7 or 8 years now, and, you know, yoga does a similar thing. It's a similar philosophy, but the medicines just are just another tool to achieve the same thing. So you can practice yoga, you can meditate, and I started doing those things, and I still do those things, but when I found these medicines and when I connected with the medicines, or when the medicines found me, and I started working with them, they fast-tracked everything, like at an enormous speed. They brought everything up to the surface that I needed to be aware of, and they just highlighted it so clearly that there was no doubt that of the work that I needed to do. I knew exactly what I needed to do. And the more that I work with these medicines, the more I connect, the more I build a relationship with these medicines, the more effective they work for me. So yeah, really interesting. I don't feel like I'll probably journey for a little while. I feel like I've got, quite a few months to just integrate what I learned from that ceremony. And I'm really motivated to put things into practice, to build my garden. I'm teaching yoga at the moment. I'm working with people in the nutrition space, helping people with cannabis. So I'm really motivated to help people and do more work. I was leading up to the ceremony, I was a bit unclear on what work I was doing and, what I was going to be doing, and whether I was doing the right thing. And there's just been a small tweak there as well, and just a lot of clarity, and I'm really motivated to be helping people and help as many people as I can. And a lot of opportunities have come up since then. Organic meetings with people and businesses and some collaborations and that kind of stuff. So it's all happening, and it's just because I've done a big amount of healing work, and I've freed myself from those limiting beliefs, from those old stories in my head. And just like the plants do, they go through periods of struggle and challenge, and then they keep growing and grow bigger, and they become stronger, and they become the strongest plants that they can be, or the strongest trees. They get challenged by storms and winds and the moon cycles and everything in their environment, and they grow stronger and stronger. And that's how I feel as well. I feel like I'm just growing stronger and stronger because I'm doing this work. I'm working with this medicine. So I'm deeply, deeply grateful for the medicine. It is a sacrament. It's a sacred medicine. I honor it deeply. I revere this medicine. I bow down to this medicine. The medicine has... Look, I know that as a human, I have huge intelligence within me. But this medicine also has just supreme intelligence, far beyond what I'm able to comprehend at the moment, and far beyond what humankind is able to comprehend. Like, we don't know anything about the mushroom kingdom. We probably know 1% of what's going on in the mushroom kingdom. And the mushroom kingdom is the oldest living organism on this planet. It was here before everything else was. I've heard stories of planet Earth, billions of years ago, a comet passing Earth one day seeded these mushrooms on planet Earth, and from there all life was created, and up until where we are now. So whether that's true or not, I've heard that. I know some people who have had those experiences on mushrooms, people who have worked with the mushrooms for a long time, and it seems to be a common experience. So the mushrooms are trying to tell us something, and they leave clues, and they're here to help us. But we must treat them with reverence and respect, and as a sacrament, because they're a gift from Mother Earth. They're a gift from the universe. and I've had some of the most magical experiences using these mushrooms, and this is just one of them, and I'll continue to keep exploring my work with them, and sharing with everyone on this channel, and I hope it's helpful. I enjoy sharing my experiences because it takes me deeper, just talking about them, revisiting them, doing these videos. It's good for me too, and I hope that if you watch this, if you listen to this, then it also just is entertaining for you, and educational and empowering, and might give you something to think about if you feel a bit stuck yourself and feel like you've got a bit of healing work to do and need some tools to help you. I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for listening. Deep gratitude. Aho.